Hey everyone, I'm Tim, and this is my video blog, How to Build Thriving Teams. Now, today I'm going to do something a little bit different than normal. And see, normally I usually talk about a topic or a principle that's designed to help leaders build a thriving team culture in their organizations and their businesses. Now, while I think today's conversation is going to be very helpful for that, we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're not going to talk about organizations so much. We're going to talk about you. Today's conversation is what I call the 4 keys to discovering your creative genius. And here's what I mean. When you think of the most creative people you know, or even don't know, what comes to mind? Is it artists and writers and musicians, perhaps? I know when I was first thinking about this question, I thought the same thing. But the truth is that creativity is so much bigger than just artistry. Artistry is a type of creativity, but they're not synonymous. Now, when I think of creative people, I think of people like Pat Flynn. I think of Ariana Huffington. I think of Lyman Stewart, who founded the Union Rescue Mission, or Clara Barton, who started the Red Cross. I think of my godson, who has an incredible mind and loves to figure out how things work and will develop his own theories on how things work. I also think of my aunt, who works full-time as a nurse and still makes time for others and teaches them how to paint. I could go on and on because the truth is everyone possesses creative genius without exception. Without exception. I really believe this. I believe this with my whole heart. See, I think that we have been created in the image of the Creator, who I call God. Now, maybe you have a different name for it, and that's fine. It kind of doesn't matter because this truth is universal. See, my desire is to help others identify their true self, their creative genius. But it's really hard to do on a blog post, to be honest. In fact, it's darn near impossible. There's just not enough time. But what I thought we could do is at least get that process started by taking a look at the life of a person who has really exemplified what it means to live out their creative genius. I think it's appropriate, as we've just celebrated his birthday, that we talk about the life of Dr. King. Now, we know Martin Luther King Jr. as a dynamic minister, speaker, and leader of the civil rights movement from the mid-1950s all the way to his death in 1968. He was an amazing man who did amazing things, but he wasn't always that person. See, when he was born in 1929, he was a middle child born into a fairly humble home, a very faith-centric home, and through much of his young life, he struggled with fear and doubt and grief and discouragement, and even at one point, allegedly attempted to take his own life as a young man. And it wasn't until he got into college that he finally started to take his studies seriously, and he had already rejected the faith that his father taught, and sort of turned away from pursuing any type of career in the ministry, which is what his parents was hoping that he would do. But when he was a junior, some things started to turn around for him, and he reconnected with the faith that he was raised in. It became real to him for perhaps the first time. And from college, he went into seminary. And while he was in seminary, he received some vital mentorship from the president of the School of Theology where he attended. And it was this mentorship that really led to his personal and spiritual development. See, Martin Luther King Jr. always had a passion for racial equality and for fighting injustice. But this mentor helped him connect those passions that he had with the calling in his life to go into ministry. And it's amazing how mentors and coaches can help us connect dots that we wouldn't be able to connect on our own. Now, Dr. King moved to Montgomery, Alabama, where he was pastoring a church. And it was while he was there that he actually sort of first took the public stage. The Rosa Parks event took place there in Montgomery, Alabama, where she refused to give up her seat on a bus and was arrested. And Dr. King, who had already built up for himself a fairly good reputation, was asked to really lead this boycott, or this organized group of people, in which he did. And it was here that this boycott, the Montgomery bus boycott, began. And it was 382 days of people having to walk to work, being scoffed at, yelled at, even abused, physically assaulted. Dr. King and some others even had their homes attacked. It was not an easy road, but he remained steadfast. Now, the Montgomery bus boycott was only the beginning of what became an amazing legacy of social change. Dr. King helped catalyze the entire African American community to rise up against racial inequality and seek justice. And it's amazing to think about the ripple effect of that and how it changed the face of our entire country forever. So what can we take from this very brief snapshot of Dr. King's life? I mean, there's a ton that he went on to do, and there's a ton more impact and influence that he had. But even in just this brief little bio, I think there's some important keys that we can draw to help us discover our creative genius as well. Now, the first key I want to share with you is belief. See, Martin Luther King Jr. struggled with the same things that we struggle with: fear, doubt, insecurity. But it wasn't until he finally began to believe in who he was created to be. He was able to start believing in his true self. And he saw himself the way the Creator saw him. It wasn't until then that this all started to happen for him, that he was able to truly step in to his creative genius. So what do you believe about yourself? Have you maybe bought into some false narratives or some negativity about yourself? Maybe you've allowed past failures to really impact your whole belief about your worth and your strengths and your potential. I want to challenge you to see yourself the way the Creator sees you, as a wonderful creation, full with unique gifts, talents, strengths, and creativity. Belief is that first step. The second key that I think we can pull from Dr. King's life is mentorship. So much of his formation came from the wisdom and guidance of a mentor. And it was in seeking and receiving mentorship that Dr. King began to really be able to connect his passions and his purpose. That's where he really started to take those next steps into his creative genius. See, we all need a coach or a mentor in our lives. Someone who can help us see things that we can't see. Help us make those connections that we just can't make on our own. And you'd be amazed at just how much worth and value and gifts and talents and strengths others see in you that you can't see in yourself. So I encourage you to seek out mentorship or seek out coaching. It is vital for our development. Now, the third key for discovering our creative genius is courage. See, Dr. King was willing to risk a lot. He risked his reputation, his career. He even risked his own well-being because his convictions were so strong. When he first gave that speech for the Montgomery bus boycott, he gave it with such eloquence and such authority. But what did he have to base his authority on? This was really the first thing that he had done on any kind of level. This is the first real sort of move he made as a spokesperson for the civil rights movement. See, his authority wasn't based on previous accomplishment. His authority was rooted in his belief and his conviction. So I ask you, when you think about the things that you want to do in your life, maybe it's an entrepreneurial venture, maybe it's just starting something new, what are you willing to risk? How important is it to you? How strong are your convictions? And are you more focused on the action or the outcome? Now, the fourth key to discovering your creative genius, and one that I think Dr. King just lived out so well, was perseverance. So, I think when we think about just the incredible impact and the success and the influence that Dr. King had, it's easy, I think, to forget just how hard of a road it really was. I mean, this was a road filled with hardship, abuse, violence, failure. He had to endure it all, and so did all the other people who were part of that civil rights movement. And he kept enduring, and he persevered all the way up to the point where it took his life. Now, most of us will never experience that type of hardship. And the pursuit of our passions and creative genius won't have any kind of threat to our well-being, most likely. But there will be risk involved. It is going to cost you something. And in the pursuit of your creative genius, in the pursuit of your passion and purpose, you're going to experience hardship. You're going to experience failure. But I encourage you to persevere. Be courageous. Seek out mentorship and believe in your true self. See, that is how we discover our creative genius. I hope that this was helpful for you. And if you'd like to continue this conversation in some way, I would love to hear from you. Any questions or comments, please reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook. You can reach me at my website, TimBartlett.me. You'll see a contact form there. And please subscribe to this blog as well. You'll get weekly blog posts in your inbox when you subscribe, talking about different things that impact you and your ability to build a thriving team culture in your organizations. We'll see you next time.